Welcome to Point Blank Music School here in London, where today we are very pleased to bring you the second in our live presentation series as part of the Point Blank Youth Foundation project, for which we are joined here today in the studio by BBC Radio 1 and 1Extra's Mistajam.
Hello.
So here at Point Blank, we want to help inspire young people. We want to help you guys get out there and get on the path to a successful career in the industry. So for those reasons, we have launched the Point Blank Youth Foundation project as a platform to try and help engage and inspire young people local to our borough here in London of Hackney. So for this session, for this presentation, we welcome the very talented broadcaster and DJ Mistajam to offer some insight for you guys into his life and his career experiences in the industry, and kind of how he's kind of got to where he is today, really. Also to give you guys any advice and words of encouragement to help you along the way as well. So we're also very pleased to welcome along quite a few different local schools and colleges from Hackney. And you guys watching from school, from college, if you do have any questions to put forward, then just get posting in the chat room, and we will be going through questions as we move through the next hour or so. We'll put them straight to Mistajam, so yeah, make sure you get posting. So yeah, without further ado, welcome along. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. So the first thing I thought would probably be good to talk about is how you kind of originally got into music, really. I know that you started quite young. I think you were DJing at 14 or something.
Yeah, my first proper professional gig was at 14.
Okay, wow.
And I'm not a small guy. When I was younger, I was bigger than I was. Or bigger than I am now, and nobody ever really questioned my age.
Right. Okay.
Because I also used to hang around with people that were much older than me. I used to go to a few youth clubs in the area near me, and one of the particular youth clubs that I went to, the idea of it is that they would do a DJ skills course and a sound engineering course if you completed a drugs awareness course.
Right. Okay.
So they were funded via the local drugs awareness kind of foundation, and the idea is that if we completed that, we'd have the drugs awareness knowledge. Being young kids at that point, they really wanted to drum that home, and we were the ones that were interested in music. So I kind of went through that and got the qualification that I wanted and did the training that I wanted to do. And as part of that, a few of us kind of hooked up together. A local hip hop crew at that point were looking for a DJ, so I started to DJ for them. And our first gig was at a club in Manchester. I'm from Nottingham, so kind of travelling up to Manchester, had a parental to give permission for the youth club leader to take us up, and walking into a club called Hacienda that literally closed 2 weeks after we went there.
That's amazing. How old? 14?
14.
That's incredible.
14, yeah, that was my first gig.
That's amazing.
And but I've always been into music.
Yeah.
It's always been something that I've been interested in, and trying to make a career out of it was something that I think was my #1 choice from as long as I can remember.
So that kind of predates even the youth club and the programme?
Yeah, I mean, my mum, she regularly pulls it out. She's got a photo of me, aged 2, at the kitchen table with a little kind of toy record player that would play real records, and I'd play records at the kitchen table.
DJing from 2?
Pretty much, or at least that's what I claim.
So from those kind of really early days, I mean, we mentioned the hip hop crew that you're involved with. I know that you went on to get kind of more involved in events and DJing. So for you, how did you kind of take that next step? From being a 14-year-old kid, kind of starting out to really getting quite involved in the scene. How did that kind of progression happen for you?
Well, for me, it was something that I would spend all of my spare time doing. Other than school, it would be about music. It would be about begging my parents, saving up as much money as possible, getting a job as early as I could, and spending all of my spending all of my money on music, spending all of my time either listening to music, playing music. I'd managed to find a pair of decks belt drive turntables.
Yeah.
Which obviously is a great place to start.
Yeah.
Even with today's technology, if you can mix on belt drive turntables, you can mix on anything.
You're fine for life. Yeah,
absolutely,
definitely.
absolutely.
I think we've all been there.
So yeah, it was about spending as much time as possible immersing myself in it. The hip hop crew that I DJ'd for out de Ville, they had a studio beneath the community centre in St Anne's in Nottingham, and every Saturday I'd be on the bus from my house straight over to the studio, be there at 10 a.m, be on, my dad or my mum would come and pick me up at about 9 p.m. So I'd be there all day, just immersing myself in it, being around the studio, being around them making music, being around the producers that were working there making music, being around the guy that had taught me my DJ skills, a DJ called DJ Fever, back home in Nottingham, who's technically one of the best DJs I've ever seen in my life. And if I was a tenth as good as him, then technically I'd be amazing. But, I'm not.
Doing all right though.
I'm doing all right. It's just, there's certain, because at that point it was about turntablism. It was about learning.
Which is a really technical skill.
Very technical skill. So, 9 out of 10 of those scratches that you see really adept turntablists do, I can't do them.
No.
But I'm competent in what I can do. But it was just immersing myself in it and practicing. When I was 16, I went and got a job at a record shop chain in Nottingham, and basically spent all of the money that would come in from that, both pay my parents' board and also buying music and kind of trying to get into it and trying to do things professionally. And then it was through hooking up with another local producer called Joe Buda, who was really, really he really believed in me and really gave me a lot of opportunities. He had promotions at that point in time. He was putting on events. He put me on those events, and I was learning my apprenticeship, coming up through the ranks, playing every month at a nightclub in Nottingham called The Bomb, and just really just learning my craft. I think, for a lot of people these days, it's about practice. It's about making sure that you've got that foundation. It's about knowing that you're going to be comfortable in a situation as a DJ walking into a nightclub and knowing that one deck's broken. You're still going to be able to play a set. It's still going to be fine.
And I think from what you said, it sounds like a lot of graft has gone into it. A lot of hours of dedication. Do you think that's something that could be lost at all? Nowadays that there is quite a kind of culture of instant gratification. And the amount of technology to pick up DJing or kind of paths to get into it. Is that something you feel that is still that kind of valuable today? I
think at the end of the day, when you look at the top flight, and I'm nowhere near the top flight, but when you look at the top flight of DJs, whether they be DJ producers or just DJs, the common thread between them is the amount of graft that they've had to put in to get to the level where they're at. Nobody, even controversially, David Guetta. David's nearly 50. He's put in the years. He's been doing it since he was a teenager, and it's only been recently that he's been being successful. It is about that hard graft, and we are in a culture of instant gratification. But I think that is a good thing in a way, because you can go and download Virtual DJ for free. It will mix tracks for you, but that's not going to help you if you walk into a nightclub and the DJ before you plays the exact same set that you want to play, and you have to pull something out of your backside to try and entertain the crowd. That's not going to teach you the skills that you need to be able to be a good DJ. It may bypass. It's the same, with people. There was the uproar about the new CDJ 2000.
I mean, there's always been the way, isn't it? When CDJs first came out, to when software to now, that we do have here the 2000s with the sync button.
The sync button isn't going to help you if you're playing rubbish music.
That's right.
It might sync up your tracks for you, but that's it. And that's the art of DJing. People are always talking about Dead Mouse being controversial, saying DJs are button pushers, and people playing pre-mixed sets and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it really matters, because the art of DJing is entertaining a crowd with pre-recorded music. It's what you do with it that is where the art comes in, the art form comes in.
And so to kind of bring stuff up to today, really. So you know, we talked about your kind of DJing at various events and getting more and more involved. How then did we get to the level where, you know, you're on 1Xtra on Radio 1, you know, to the nation?
Yeah.
How did that kind of step happen?
Well, to cut a very long story short, with Joe Buda, we set up a company and we were putting on regular events in Nottingham. We put on this series of events called UK Takeover. And at that point, hip-hop MCs and grime MCs were just two very completely separate worlds. But being DJs as we were, we travelled the country, we'd play sets. It was the same crowd that would turn up for a grime rave that would turn up for a hip-hop rave. You know, me being that multi kind of genre guy, back, you know, in my early days, being in a youth sound system where we play every genre under the sun, and, you know, looking at the crowds and seeing what the reaction was, because that, for me, is the art of DJing, being able to read a crowd. We saw that there was no difference in the crowd. There was no difference in the crowd's reaction. There was just a difference in the kind of the perception of the scenes. So we started to do these events, and the events, while never financially successful, never financially successful, we never made any money from them. In fact, we're still in the red from UK Takeover. What it did is it raised our profile as promoters, and it raised my profile as a DJ, being one of the people responsible for putting on the event. I was always playing on every single event. I was co-hosting the events, and we approached 1Xtra to basically come and do a live broadcast from UK
So you
Takeover.
approached them?
We approached them.
Okay,
we
cool.
said to them, you know, look, around that time, 1Xtra had been going for a few years, and we said, you know, we're doing this thing in Nottingham. It's got all of these acts on, all of these acts that you playlist during the day. Would you like to come down and kind of do a live broadcast? The first one, they said no, not interested. Then we got the opportunity to book a legendary hip-hop artist in Nottingham called KRS-One. Who... He's
pretty amazing booking,
Absolutely, you know, in old school hip hop, which massively predates me, but this is the benefit of being hanging around with older people.
And the knowledge of, you know, kind of dedicating that much time to music and going back.
Absolutely,
you know.
Reading, you know, sleeve notes and all that kind of stuff. He's known as the teacher. You know, he's very intellectual. His rhymes are always very intellectual. So we thought, let's do something different with him. Let's do an event on the Thursday, and on the Friday, let's, you know, hire a local cinema and have him come and do a lecture.
Amazing.
So we approached 1Xtra with that idea. They loved the idea. And I was playing warm-up. They decided to come and do a live broadcast from the KRS-One show, so they all kind of came up to Nottingham, the big BBC trucks. All of the execs came along because they were fans of KRS-One. And it was Laura Lucans, who's still the music manager of 1Xtra, and a guy called Ray Paul, who was an executive producer at 1Xtra at that point in time, that both saw my warm-up set and both said to me, you know, there's an opening at 1Xtra for a hip-hop DJ. Would you be interested? It was at that point that I turned around and go, well, I don't just play hip-hop. They've gone, the opening's for a hip-hop DJ.
Right,
You've just played a hip-hop set. What do you think?
And when 1Xtra say to that to you?
You kind of say... Yeah, no problem. They asked if I had any radio experience. At that point, I'd done a few years on pirate radio in Nottingham. When I was doing my GCSEs, I managed to blag my way onto the local Nottingham Trent University's radio station, Fly FM, because they had a limited licence, and I'd done a few shows with them. So I was able, the next day, this was at the concert, the next day I was able to go to Ray with 9 hours worth of me on radio, 3 mixtapes. He said, without listening to them, do you want to come in on Tuesday to pilot for a show?
Amazing.
I went into the office, the 1Xtra Towers on Tuesday, piloted the show with Janine, who's now my producer again.
Amazing,
and yeah, literally before I left the building, they'd offered me the show, and I started 3 weeks later, and I've been there ever since, and that was 2005.
That's an amazing story. I think for lots of the guys out there, I think, you know, from that, the idea of you seeing an opportunity with KRS-One, you know, really kind of grabbing it and taking hold of it and you know, looking at doing something different is probably quite an amazing lesson, you know. It's something really to kind of take away.
I think that's the thing, you know, nobody's going to give you anything in the music industry, especially. You know, nobody has a reason to do something with you unless you're giving them that reason. You know, with KRS-One, when we booked him in Nottingham, the reason why 1Xtra wanted to come and do something with us is because we said we want to do something that's more than just a live concert broadcast. We want to do something that's going to kind of put something back into the community. Let's, you know, get some knowledge out of him. And they were interested in that. they saw me DJ, and they then offered me an opportunity because they saw by that point I'd been able to build up a profile for myself through putting myself on bookings, through going out on the road with with Joe Buddha, with other artists, through essentially putting myself into a position. They then decided that that I would be the right guy for the job, and then it was the fact that I'd had that background in radio, the fact that I'd had that love for radio, and the fact that I was able to do the job that they wanted me to do, that meant that I got the foot in the door.
Yeah, and all that experience, all that graft, really came together, I guess.
It's still graft.
Yeah,
it's still graft. Day to day, it's still graft, but I love it.
Amazing. I'll just have a quick look on the forum, see if we've got any questions coming in. Ron's asked how to get a tune to you to consideration for shows. Do you have a Dropbox or SoundCloud?
Do you know what? I do have a SoundCloud, but to be honest, it gets so congested with a lot of rubbish.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think, there's a lot of people that will go and watch a tutorial online and make a carbon copy record, of, a dubstep record or a deep house record or whatever, and then send it to me. Completely unmixed, unmastered, saying I want you to play this on your radio show, and then don't react very nicely when you reply to them saying it's not quite ready, I haven't thought of this, it sounds pretty much generic. So what I tend to do is unsolicited music submissions. I've got an email address that's set up that I'll check once a week, dedicate a few hours once a week to go through everything that comes in the email address, ask people to send me 320 MP3s. If I feel the need to kind of reply with feedback, I will. If I feel the need to say, this is amazing, I'm going to play it, I will. If I feel the need to say, it's quite there, but have you thought about changing this, this and this, then I will. And if it's something that I don't feel moved to comment on, then I won't. And that email address is on my website. If people go to mistajam.com, click on the little contact button, every way that you can send music into me or contact me is there.
I think it's something that we have, because we've had quite a few kind of DJs and producers and label owners and stuff like that come through here. And one thing that does come up is kind of being quite real about it, dropping someone an email and talking about why you sent them the track and making sure you are 100% happy with it, and it does, hold up against other material that's being released.
Absolutely, because we're living in an age now, and again using the phrase of instant gratification, we're living in an age where me as a DJ, I will play something that's been mixed and mastered by the best in the business next to something that's completely unsigned. There needs to be no drop in sonic quality. Otherwise, listeners will react. And 9 times out of 10, they'll react by either tweeting or texting or turning off the radio. But the bottom line is for every DJ that's on radio, especially someone like myself who's not playlisted, our currency is the new acts that we find, that we champion and that we help to break. So we're actively looking for new music all the time. It just needs to be of that quality and that standard that we can then stand beside. Wicked.
I'm sure that's answered your question, Ron. Let's have a quick look.
Gotta love the internet.
Yeah, it's great. So we've got a couple of questions from the girls, Clapton Girls Technology College, who are locked in, asking about if you've DJ'd for any famous people. I guess if you've ever had those kind of private bookings for birthday parties or anything like that. Is that something that comes about?
It rarely, very, very rarely. The kind of the whole famous DJ bit, the kind of that fame scene. It's weird for me because I tend to play quite a lot of credible clubs. I tend to play, in provinces across the UK, across the world. Tend to play a lot of festivals, and it's always weird when you're standing on stage or you're standing in a DJ booth and you look out and you see someone famous. But I can't say that I've ever been that guy that will go and play a West End club for a Premiership footballer. I don't tend to play that kind of music.
Those bookings don't come in.
No, I'm not bling enough. Absolutely not bling enough.
We've got a question from the guys at B6 College in Hackney. who have asked if when you DJ, do you use vinyl or do you use Tractor or Serato, and what are your thoughts on the kind of vinyl digital debate, really?
Well, like I say, I started on belt drive turntables, and I think if you are a DJ starting out, if you can start on vinyl, it's going to give you an amazing kind of background and the knowledge and understanding of what is happening with the music. Me personally, I currently use Serato. I use Serato with CDJs. But I'm looking to move over to Rekordbox, which is Pioneer's kind of proprietary software where you can just literally turn up to a club with a USB key or an SD card and kind of play your set. But where I stand with the kind of the debate of vinyl versus CD, I think, you know, I've been one of those guys that, you know, when CDJs first came out and first started to become the industry standard, I was one of those guys that was going, no, I'll be vinyl for life. And then, you know, there's only so many times that you can walk through Notting Hill Carnival with a box of records, carrying them by yourself, and, you know, they weigh a ton. There's only so many times that you can get a booking abroad and you end up spending all of your fee on excess baggage charges.
Or they get lost, you know,
or they get lost, and then you end up having to sit there in the club and go, thanks for coming, I can't do it. But no, for me, I think it is about keeping up with technology. I think, you know, anything that is there to help a competent DJ make the very best of their set, I'm all for. Like, you know, like we spoke about earlier on, the programs that will do a load of stuff for you, that's not going to make you a good DJ. That just means that one of the technical aspects, i.e. beat matching, is being done for you. It doesn't make you a good DJ. But no, I love technology. I love new technology. I don't think you can be a DJ without being a bit of a geek.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say, I think. Cool. Let's have a quick look. We've got a question from Aloshino, who's asked any advice on how to break through as a DJ and how to get those first bookings?
Create them yourself. Absolutely create them yourself. This is, you know, it's something that people don't necessarily want to hear, but if you've got the money, if you and a few friends believe in it, go and find a venue, hire the venue and put on your own event. You know, I think the thing that a lot of DJs that are successful these days have is they have some sort of background, knowledge and understanding of promotion. And when I say promotion, I mean club promotion. I mean putting on your own events. I think that is probably the best way for you to start to get noticed. If you've got that much money, if you can afford to do it, put yourself alongside the acts that you want to be seen alongside. You know, if you are a house DJ and you want to be considered alongside, you know, your Jamie Joneses or your Eats Everythings, then go and get a loan. Go and get a few grand. It's going to cost you a packet, hire Jamie Jones, hire Eats Everything to come and play at your event. You know, start. A lot of DJs these days, and a lot of DJs that you see that are breaking through now, are those DJs that have got that background in being able to put on their own events and putting themselves into a position. Because I think that with the music industry, it's about if you can put yourself into a position, then the perception will follow if you've got the talent to back it up. Yeah,
I think there's also, you know, kind of a lot that comes out of putting on an event. You know, meeting people is also an incredible way to do it, getting involved in the industry.
I mean, let's be honest, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, they are congested with so many DJs trying to do something, trying to put together a mix. Everybody's playing the same tracks. Let's be honest, a hot track is a hot track, and there's only so many ways that you can put together 5 different tracks. If you want to get yourself noticed and you want to be a little bit different to the rest, have a story, have a background, have a history, and put on your own events.
I think face-to-face as well, you know, Mixcloud, SoundCloud's one thing, but actually meeting people is a world of difference.
If you want to use online, then, you know, there's this platform that we're on right now. You know, do some video mixes, show people what it is that you do. Try and generate that kind of fan base, that following, that community around you of people that trust you as a DJ. I think, you know, it's not easy.
No. But it's really competitive, but there are, you know, thinking outside the box, and as you said, you know, making it happen for yourself. It's great advice.
Absolutely.
Let's have a quick look back in the forum. Well, the other thing, I mean, in the meantime, the other thing that I wanted to ask is about, I know that you've got some experience with acting as well, right? So that's another kind of an area and an industry that you've had experience with. How did that come about as well?
Well, that's something that I did as a kid. I was involved in something called the television workshop back home in Nottingham, and I was involved in that from 7 until like 19. And that was something that, you know, you'd go to once or twice a week. That was just a drama group. And every now and then a casting director would come down. If you've seen anything that's been made by Shane Meadows, it's pretty much cast, and you know, the entire cast is my friends from the
So this is England, and
this is England, Room for Romeo Brass, all of those things. I probably was the only person that wasn't in any of those films. Shane didn't like me for some reason, but that was cool. I got an acting job when I was 18. Going to do a daytime soap, but that was the day job for me. You know, along
not a bad one to have. Though.
Not a bad one to have at all. And to be brutally honest, being paid to be on telly is a great way to boost your record collection. Because that's what I did, and buying equipment and all that kind of stuff. But you know, I was still DJing at the same time, and you know, acting up until recently was a hobby for me. But I've not really, I've completely fallen out of love with it. I haven't got the time for it. And music is always been my first love. It's always been my first passion. So
I think, again, there is something to take away from that. You know, going to a workshop, you know, again, similar to the youth club at the start for music. So getting yourself out there again, I think.
There's definitely transferable skills. You know, it helped me with my personal development. It helped me stop being a little brat as I was as an only child craving attention from everyone. It helped.
Typical really drama student there.
Absolutely. But no, it really helped me kind of tone all of that stuff down. And it also helps as well projection for me as a broadcaster. You know, the projection training that I got as a young kid, and just being around different people of very different
creative people as well.
Creative people, people from maybe different classes, from different kind of religions, from different ethnic backgrounds. It really, really helped. And I think anything like that you can put yourself into is always going to help, especially in the music industry where everybody's different. Yeah,
definitely. Cool. We've got a question from the guys at B6 again, who have asked. You know, when you're starting out, when did you start making money? You know, when did that start? Kind of living off of it as a profession.
Living off of it as a profession happened in 2007. So by that point, I'd been doing it for 13 years.
Right. Okay.
To make money out of DJing and to kind of make a living out of DJing is not easy at all. I think, you know, the predominant route these days is to be a DJ producer, to do it as a hobby for as long as you can, try and have a record that's going to bring in enough bookings, and then, you know, make that sacrifice, make that leap. But I had a day job up until 2007. The thing that changed in 2007 was that they gave me more shows on One Extra. Okay. Which was when I went 5 days a week on One Extra, which then meant that I could actually afford to give up the day job. Before that point, between 2005 2007, I would have 2 shows per week, both of them based in London. I still lived in Nottingham.
Oh, so you're still making the journey down, right?
So I'd drive down on a Thursday night listening to Annie Mac's show, broadcast Thursday night 2 till 6 a.m, drive home to Nottingham to make The Office. I used to work in a call centre for a credit card company selling loans to people. Wow. Get into the office at around about 10 a.m.
Straight after the show?
Straight after the show.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
Work until 5 o'clock, go home, get some sleep. I would be back on air at 10. So I would then drive back down to London, do the show at 10.
Unbelievable.
10 until midnight, and then drive back home.
And then try and sleep at some point in there.
Grab sleep somewhere, yeah. But before that, that's what I did, because that's what I had to do to earn money. Post that, that's when things started to kind of change for me. It's only, like I say, been relatively recently, 4 or 5 years that I've been making sole money out of the entertainment.
I guess now you've got bookings kind of worldwide and festivals, as we said. So
things tend to bring things on. So you know, the more that you can be in the scene, the more that you can do within it. You know, for me, being on radio, having that club DJ background, and being able to be with a really good agent that can put me up for bookings, having fantastic management that can kind of steer my career in the right way, and being business partners with some really, really good, really clever people. It means that, you know, I can make a living out of the music industry, but it's not easy. Yeah,
and I guess that knowledge from you know, kind of being so involved in the scene is always going to be a massive help as you go along.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, when when we think of underground music, or even, you know, pop music these days, when you think of your average girl band, they are all salaried.
Yeah.
They're salaried employees of the record label.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that I always say, especially to creatives, is if you have a knowledge of the business, then you can go far, because we've got loads of DJs, we've got loads of producers, we've got loads of artists. We're crying out for more really good managers. We're crying out for more really good accountants. We're crying out for really good tour managers. We're crying out for, you know, the what some people would say is the peripherals, but those are the important jobs within the music industry, and those are the ones where your career can last for a very long
and make
time.
some good cash while you're at it.
Absolutely. And then when you're in that position, that's the point where you go, I've got these links, so here's my CD.
Yeah, that is something well worth considering. You know, the kind of breadth, the depth of the industry, and how far you can be involved in it. Really.
Absolutely.
Let's have another look for the guys watching at home. Okay, someone's asked about separating the kind of DJ and promoter side of things. He said that as a DJ, he won a competition to play at Block, 2012, on the boat, on the Stubnitz. Yeah, which I've actually played on there actually a few months ago. It's amazing. So he said, but he struggled as a promoter to find a venue to take him on. So I think they're asking about, you know, kind of perhaps as a DJ to then putting on your own nights. What's that step to finding that venue and making that first event happen?
It's trying to find someone that believes in you, really. It's trying to find, you know, it may not be the best venue, but you can turn it into the best venue. You know, if you are in London, then don't try and go into the West End. You know? Yeah. Have a look at what's around your local area. It might be a room above a pub that you kind of take as a function room that you then, you know, you do your own parties. You know, let's be honest, a lot of these club brands and a lot of these really, really credible names these days started out really small. Yeah, definitely. So it's just about finding where your niche is. If he's finding it really hard to find a venue that wants to take him seriously, maybe you're pitching it a bit too high. You know, don't go to Fabric and say, I want a room 3, because 3,000 other people are going to Fabric and saying, I want a room 3. Go to your local area, go to, you know, find a space that's a licensed space, obviously, because they're obviously very tight on those laws. Yeah, they are indeed. And try and see what it is that you can do. There's always a way. I think, you know, if you've tried all of that and it's still not working, then travelling's really easy. Move outside of, you know, of London. Move outside. Just, you know, what's happening in Essex? What's happening in Hornchurch? What's happening in this place? What's happening in that place? And see if there is something that you can try and build up. If it's still not really happening for you, then just practice and make sure that you are the best possible DJ that you can be, and pester local promoters. Play for free. I think there's also scope to maybe collaborate. You know, it could be that you team up with someone if they're already running a night, or you know, anything like that. Really. Absolutely. There's always promoters are a funny breed. If you're a really, really good DJ and you're willing to play for free, they'll put you on. Yeah, definitely. Cool. So let's have a look. What have we got here? Okay, here's an interesting question. Someone by the name of Grumble X Music has asked, do you believe that it's necessary these days to be a producer as well as a DJ in order to make it, I guess? So there's a couple of people he's mentioned who are just DJs, but how do you feel about that today? It's a lot harder. It is a lot harder to just be a DJ because it's a lot harder for you to get yourself noticed. You need some sort of calling card. That's why, for me, it was about promotion. And that's why when I talk to people who are interested in DJing, it is about the promotion. It's about having that other string to your bow. I've always produced. I've always kind of made music. At one point, I was a studio engineer tutor. Okay. So, you know, I'm well versed in how a studio works, but I never got recognised for my production. I only did a few bits and bobs that never really went anywhere. So for me, it wasn't about trying to make beats and make placements, because that's very hard again. I think right now, if you are a DJ producer and you kind of blow up on the back of a track and then you get DJ bookings in, then that's one way of doing it. I don't think it's necessary. I think, you know, it's about what is it that you want to do, and then finding the way to make that work.
Okay, great advice. We are kind of approaching the kind of 1 o'clock mark, so just to run through a couple of things. I mean, one thing I did want to ask you about is, you know, we talked about you've been in the game a long, long time. Do you have any real career highlights, you know, that looking back that really stand out to you?
I think for me, there's been so many things that I've done that I can't quite believe that I have done. You know, last year was probably the busiest year that I've had as a DJ so far, and playing at, you know, amazing venues, from, you know, Hideout Festival last year, playing on a boat in Croatia, in literal paradise.
Yeah, that must be pretty amazing.
And then, you know, you ended up playing a pool party alongside artwork and playing garage for 4 hours was amazing. Supporting Jay-Z at the NEC in front of 15,000 people.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, also pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But that was amazing. You know, Glastonbury for me, being able to play Glastonbury as a DJ, for me was absolutely amazing. You know, for me, I think, you know, my biggest highlights are yet to come. At this moment in time, other than broadcasting, my main focus is my project Speakerbox.
Okay.
With that, we're doing events, so I'm getting back into my promotions game, which is much more stressful these days as it was then, because everybody's much more expensive. And also, there's a record label side to that I'm not getting involved with, the kind of the A&R side of things because of conflicts with the BBC.
Right.
But that, you know, is really interesting and really exciting. There's compilations as part of that. So I think my massive career highlights are yet to come.
Okay, incredible.
My ultimate aim is to be doing this when I'm like Westwood's age.
Yes.
So, you know, or when I'm like Rodigan's age, who's even older than Westwood.
Yeah, who's on One Extra now as well,
Yeah,
right?
he's moved over to One Extra, so... Well, you know, you could even take it even further, like Terry Wogan. You know, these people have been doing this for longer than I think everybody in this room collectively have been alive. You know, I'd love to do that. I want longevity in my career, so I think my career highlights are yet to come.
Yeah, wicked. I mean, we're looking forward to it. I think 2013 is going to be, you know, incredible year, especially with the Speakerbox stuff as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, let's just have a quick look for any final questions from the chat room. Let's have a look. Max has asked about producing, which we kind of covered there. So any plans for more productions from yourself, or is it focused DJing at the moment?
To be honest, I've been back in the studio recently. I did a Point Blank course, online course, to refresh my knowledge in Logic. I know Ableton very well. So, you know, time will tell. I'm tinkering, but the problem is being a DJ and being someone who has that ear for listening for stuff. It's very hard for you to make something that you're happy with. Yeah.
Ever the critic.
Absolutely. Over the course of the past 3 years, I've probably made about 500 beats, and out of them, I think I'm happy with 2.
So just to kind of round things off, obviously there's a lot of guys out there watching, especially the guys from the local schools and colleges who I'm sure are thinking about kind of breaking into music or into kind of various creative industries. Do you have any real kind of any advice that stands out for you, words of encouragement that you think is kind of essential for those guys, really?
Don't be afraid of hard work. You know, I think anything that is worth having is worth working for. And if you are that person out of a crew where you're the person that's there phoning everyone else saying, come on, let's do this. Everyone else is like, yeah, I'll be there in a bit. Then that's the attitude you need. You need to be willing to put in the graft, because to be honest, like I say, I'm nowhere near made it, but as you move along your career, it doesn't get any easier. The one thing that you have to have, though, is a passion and a love for it, because you will dedicate a lot of your life to it.
Yeah, great advice. Really good advice. I mean, I hope that that's helped you guys at home. A lot of stuff to go through there, and also it is worth noting that this whole session, the whole live broadcast, will be archived on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and view it whenever you want. So yeah, that's it from us. Just time to say a big thank you to Mistajam. Thanks for coming down, man.
Thanks for having me.
It was great. It's wicked. And we will be back. I think we've got another presentation next month. More information on that one. Just stay locked to the Facebook and also to Point Blank Plus as well. Just head to www.pointblankonline.net. So that's it from us, and we'll see you guys very, very soon. Thanks for watching.